Do we have any stats on sexual abuse of boys under 3 years, pre-verbal? No, unfortunately, I don't. I am hearing a few more information on that. That some people are coming forward. One of the difficulties with that is, how do you gather evidence unless it's reported and identified by other people, and also people's ability to articulate their experience, and the laying down of memory, we know, doesn't happen for some people till a later age. The process of laying down memory, it's a complex issue, and there's some evidence now that that's not happening till a little bit later, at 3, 4. So you might have an experience, but the ability to articulate that and the memories of that may not be clear. So it's often relying on other people. Okay, so I'll put a little piece in here because I think it's really important to recognize that these sexual categories that we live by and often hear about, and people try and understand sexual abuse by, are very much inventions of our modern time. Homosexual was invented in 1869 as a sexual pathology. Heterosexual, 1892, again as a sexual pathology, because that was the fact of having sex with a partner of the different sex, and enjoying sex, because remembering up to that time sex was about procreation, not about enjoyment. This doesn't mean people didn't enjoy sex, just a question of that's how it was understood. And also latent homosexual desire comes in 1898. And Cameron, I'll look at your question in a second. And the key thing about that is that that's this idea that there's this hidden sexual desire that I might not even know about, or know about till later on in life. This produces incredible problems for men who've experienced sexual abuse, because they have this idea that there's bits of me that I don't know, and so they spend in confusion and trying to work this out. And Cameron said, Gary, have you found any helpful resources to explain the physiological responses men might have, erection, ejaculation, for non-medical professionals to use with clients? I'd like to say yes, but no. Maybe, Cameron, you're identifying that's really important. Accent says some good resources. I've seen some charts, and there is something somewhere. What I might have to do is access that and put some of that more material up. Okay, so I'm going to move on a little bit here. I'll leave this. The PowerPoint can be downloaded a bit later on. I want to actually talk a little bit more now about the sexual abuse of boys by women, recognizing this is a figure around 20%. Now, the difficulty with this is that there's varying figures that people produce around this. I've seen a figure as high as 40%, but that's also often when there's other males involved. But it seems that 20% is a fairly common statistic there. What happens around this for those boys is they confront that whole idea about masculinity, that we should be interested in sex, that sex with the women is what you should be seeking out. And for those boys, there's a real challenge in them identifying this experience as sexually abusive. They might be clear to them, but they're very conscious that people in the community would experience or say they should be lucky and feel good about this experience, or even might say that a woman can't rape a man. That was actually said to me by somebody in a sexual assault worker, which is quite difficult to understand. But in a sense of, clearly women can rape men and boys, and it's not always about physical force. Remember, there's coercion and pressure that people bring around in other ways. It's recognizing that where men are raped by women, that question of sexuality might again pop up in relation to them struggling. If I didn't enjoy this, then does this really mean I'm gay? So it shows how insidious these questions of sexuality are, and difficult they are for the guys. We recognize also that when men are sexually assaulted by females, there's often, we understand that that's much more likely to be through in a relationship context, or where there's some persuasion rather than threats of force. Apparently babysitters are the largest group of females to sexual assault males. The difficulty with that is the stats. There aren't a lot of good research in this area, so we need to look at that. recognizing also that for the guys that this can have an impact on their experiences or partners, in the sense that some of those men will develop a mistrust of women, of overt female sexuality, and in discomfort with sexual intimacy with women. I've put this little piece in here, and one of the things about, you can download this afterwards, so recognize the foundations for good sex. I've got some stuff here, and I've put a whole load of references at the back of this PowerPoint and presentation, which people can access, some of which is downloadable, and recognize that this is out there. This is how sexual abuse or sexuality is being defined. This is a quite a useful piece, in the sense that it clearly demarks that sexuality is about developing good information about your own sexuality, about developing an orientation where it's about arousal, love, lust and fun with a partner, not about performance. Having a kind of relationship where good sex can flourish, and recognizing there's ways of communicating with partners around this, about being assertive about your own desires and desires of your partner. One of the difficulties around this is that the experience of sexual abuse can really shape men's ability to speak and articulate this, and to make sense of their own sexual experiences. We know that sexuality or men's sex lives can be very much influenced by additional factors such as stress, alcohol, sleep difficulties, medication, body image, erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, depression, relationship difficulties. All of which may have nothing to do with an experience of sexual assault, but at the same time, all of those factors may be a result of sexual assault, or can be impacted on by an experience of sexual assault. So it becomes quite complex here in trying to work out how to respond and assist men around who've experienced sexual abuse. You need to recognize there might be other factors that would be good to check out with medical practitioners. And there's a great resource out of Canada, which is about Handbook for Sensitive Practice for Healthcare Practitioners, that's very, very worth accessing. Okay, I'll put this information in here. Hopefully you can see it. It clearly works out, or it articulates how you can develop a sort of sexual abuse mindset, which can make sex appear really, really problematic, where sex appears as uncontrolled energy, where it becomes an obligation or addictive, where it's understood to be hurtful, where it's about a condition for receiving love, where it's a doing to someone, where sex becomes a commodity, or is void of any kind of communication. It's secretive, it's exploitive, it's deceitful, benefits just one person. It's emotionally distant and irresponsible. It's very unsafe. It has no limits, and it can sense that it has power. It's about power over someone. Talking through with people about their experiences, and separating out good, healthy sex from abusive experiences of sex is really, really important. And this chart actually provides a nice, clear articulation of that. Oops, sorry, I don't have this out. We got to the end there. I went all through. Sorry, I'll come back. Oops, there we go. Okay, so I want to talk about relationships, because this is often the place where difficulties around sex or sexuality might appear for men, recognizing at the same time that this is very much, or can be, a place of healing around sexual abuse. That I think counsellors and therapists can do some great work at times. However, a good, supportive partner relationship where people get to engage in trusting, caring relationships, where sex becomes part of that intimacy and care in the relationship, is going to be a far more effective healing relationship than the therapist and counselor's conversation. There's work that can be done in those relationships that cannot be done in the counseling and therapeutic context. It's really important to recognize also that partners may also have experienced sexual abuse, and we need to make sure there's proper support for them, and understand how the interplay of both of their experiences of sexual abuse might shape their sexual lives. There's reports from partners about having the confusion during sexual and emotional intimacy with their partners, where the man might check out And at that moment of checking out, which is quite understandable given the experience of sexual abuse where he might have disassociated, um, the partner then experiences a disengaged person, where in a sense they experience themselves as being objectified because then the person's not emotionally engaging with them. So it's really, really important to talk with couples and support people through this. And I've put a little bit of piece in here about clearly talking with people about and separating out love, intimacy, and sex. Well, recognizing it's great when all three come together, but recognizing that also that we can talk about those as different things. To look and talk about what training the man's had about living emotionally engaged life. If you think about that whole masculinity stuff, where men are meant to be strong, to stuff down emotions, and not to engage with their emotional selves, but just to get through and be the doers and actors. This doesn't set him up very well for an emotionally engaged relationship and sexual life with his partner. It's recognizing that ideas about intimacy in relations are very, very recent ideas in our culture. They really only come in the 1980s. And recognizing that intimacy doesn't always have to be sexual intimacy. That there might be some caring, supportive sitting with the partner, just brushing her hair, rubbing her feet. That a massage might be just a massage. A partner might just want somebody to have close contact and conversations and being held with the partner, and not for this to be a precursor towards sex. It's good to talk with couples about how they give love or show love to their partner and how their partner experiences love. It might be about doing the washing up. It might be about going for a walk together. It might be about sitting and taking time. It might not be all about sex. And so it's important to talk through with that and build emotionally engaged relationships with men. It's also about recognizing that sexual abuse can really shape those sexual experience in relationships. To recognize that the experience of abuse can be replicated in a sense that the sexual experience has all the resonance, all the parallels with the experience of abuse. It might be the physical closeness, it might be the smell, it might be the position somebody's in, it might be the feeling that somebody's having. And it's really important then to talk through with somebody or recognize what might be the triggers, what might be the sensitive areas. Develop an understanding for safety of that somebody can have sexual preferences, that choice is absolutely paramount for men to become familiar and comfortable with their bodies, with talking about their own emotional states and where they're at, and also being comfortable and talking with their partners and understanding their body and their desires. We have to be really careful about some standardized sex therapy techniques, which is about directing couples to go off and become engaged and closer together, or to try touching or massage or masturbation together. If we have not first addressed or considered how the experience of sexual abuse might impact on that, it's really important to talk that through with the partner, to talk with these things through. One of the difficulties is that we know that men are very, very reluctant to tell their partners about an experience of sexual abuse, that they typically take 22 years after the offence before they talk about sexual abuse, 10 years longer than women. So often we have men who are trying to work out and negotiate a sexual relationship with a partner where they're being triggered off and having difficulties, where their partner doesn't know what's going on, because the men are reluctant to speak about it because they're worried about how their partner might judge them or not be supportive.